Have you ever been judged by your appearance? Have you ever walked into a place where everyone looked at you like you didn't belong? Well, what I'm about to tell you happened to me just 3 months ago, and it changed everything I thought I knew about respect, humility, and what really matters in life. This is my story, and I promise you, the ending will blow your mind. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from right now. I love connecting with people from all over the world, so drop your city or country below. And hey, if you enjoy stories about real-life karma and unexpected plot twists, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next on this channel. Now, let me take you back to that Tuesday morning in Manhattan. It was early October, and the air had that crisp autumn chill that makes New York feel electric. I had just gotten off the red-eye from Seattle, where I'd been working on my startup for the past 18 months. I was exhausted, running on 3 hours of sleep, and way too much airport coffee. I was wearing my usual work uniform, a faded hoodie with a small coffee stain near the collar, worn-out jeans with a rip on the knee that wasn't fashionable but genuine wear and tear, and my trusty sneakers that had seen better days. My backpack was old, the kind you'd see on a college student, not someone walking into one of the most exclusive private banks in Manhattan. But here's the thing, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I had been living out of a suitcase for months, sleeping in my office, eating instant ramen, and pouring every cent I had into building something I believed in. My company, a software platform for renewable energy management, had just closed a major acquisition deal. The kind of deal that doesn't just change your bank account, it changes your entire life. $78 million. That number still didn't feel real to me. The wire transfer was supposed to clear that morning, and my lawyer had insisted I open an account at Sterling Reserve Bank, a private institution that catered to high-net-worth individuals. I'd never even heard of the place before, but apparently, when you suddenly have that kind of money, you need a different kind of bank. One with wealth managers and investment advisors and all that stuff I never thought I'd need. The building was on Park Avenue, sandwiched between luxury boutiques and upscale restaurants. The entrance was understated, just a bronze plaque with the bank's name in elegant lettering. I pulled open the heavy glass door and stepped into a lobby that screamed old money. Everything was marble and dark wood and soft lighting. There were leather chairs that probably cost more than my first car, and abstract art on the walls that I didn't understand but assumed was worth a fortune. A few well-dressed people sat in the waiting area, talking in hushed voices. Everyone looked like they'd just stepped out of a fashion magazine. And then there was me. I approached the reception desk where a young woman in a crisp white blouse and perfectly styled hair was typing on her computer. She looked up, and I saw it immediately, that flicker of judgment in her eyes as she took in my appearance. Her polite smile faltered for just a second before she recovered. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone just barely professional. "Yeah. Hi, I have an appointment with David Chen. My name is Marcus Webb." She glanced at her computer screen, her perfectly manicured nails clicking on the keyboard. "I don't see an appointment under that name. It should be there. My lawyer, Patricia Hoffman, set it up last week. It's for opening a private wealth management account." The receptionist raised one eyebrow, her skepticism obvious. "Wealth management?" I felt my face flush. "Yes, I can call my lawyer if there's a problem." Before she could respond, another woman walked past, an older lady in an expensive-looking navy suit with pearl earrings. She glanced at me, then at the receptionist, and I heard her whisper something I wasn't supposed to hear but did anyway. "Is he here for a delivery?" The receptionist stifled a small laugh and shook her head. My stomach tightened. I dealt with plenty of rejection and doubt while building my company, but this felt different. This was personal. This was about who they thought I was based on nothing but the clothes on my back. "Let me check with someone," the receptionist said, picking up her phone. She spoke quietly, covering the receiver with her hand. I caught fragments. "Young man, casual attire, claims he has an appointment." I stood there, feeling smaller by the second. A man in a three-piece suit walked past me toward the elevators, his cologne expensive and overpowering. He didn't even glance in my direction, like I was invisible. Another couple, probably in their 60s, sat down in the waiting area. The woman's handbag alone probably cost more than I'd spent on rent in the past year. The receptionist hung up and turned back to me with a tight smile. "Someone will be down shortly to assist you. Please have a seat." I nodded and walked over to the waiting area, choosing a chair in the corner. I pulled out my phone, trying to look busy, but I could feel their eyes on me. The whispers weren't even subtle anymore. "Private bank," someone muttered. "They really need to screen people better." I wanted to stand up and shout that I belonged here just as much as anyone else, that I had more money clearing into my account that morning than some of them might see in a lifetime, but I didn't. I just sat there, feeling the weight of their judgment, remembering every time someone had told me my startup would fail, every investor who'd passed on my pitch, every person who'd looked at me me like I was wasting my time. About 5 minutes later, a man in his 40s emerged from the elevator. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit that fit him perfectly, his hair slicked back, his expression already showing irritation before he even reached me. He walked over with the purposeful stride of someone who had more important things to do. "Mr. Webb?" he asked, not extending his hand. "Yes. That's me. I'm Richard Ashford, senior associate here. I understand there's been some confusion about an appointment." "No confusion. My lawyer scheduled it. I'm here to open an account." He looked me up and down, his expression making it clear what he thought of my appearance. "Mr. Webb, Sterling Reserve Bank serves a very particular clientele. Our minimum deposit requirement for new accounts is $500,000, and our wealth management services require assets of at least $5 million. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding, or maybe another institution would be more appropriate for your needs." The condescension in his voice was thick. He wasn't just suggesting I was in the wrong place. He was telling me I didn't belong here, that I was wasting his time. I felt anger bubble up inside me, but I kept my voice calm. "I'm aware of your requirements. That's why I'm here." Richard crossed his arms. "With all due respect, Mr. Webb, I think you may be confused about what we offer here. This isn't a standard commercial bank. We don't handle small business accounts or personal checking in the traditional sense." "I know exactly what you offer," I said, my jaw tight, "and I know what I'm here for." He sighed like he was dealing with a child. "Listen, I'm sure whatever you're working on is important to you, but Sterling Reserve isn't the right fit. I'd be happy to recommend some other banks that might better suit your situation." That was it. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough, not just of him, but of everyone who'd ever looked at me and decided they knew my worth based on superficial things. I reached into my backpack and pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. The wire transfer had cleared an hour ago. I turned the screen toward him. "This cleared this morning," I said quietly. $78,400,000 from the acquisition of my company. "So unless your requirements have changed in the last 5 minutes, I think Sterling Reserve is exactly the right fit." Richard's face went white. His eyes darted from the screen to my face and back again. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I watched him try to process what he was seeing, the numbers that didn't match the story he'd written about me in his head. I apologize," he stammered. "I didn't. Let me get Mr. Chen immediately." "Yeah," I said, putting my phone away. "You do that." He practically ran back to the elevator, leaving me standing there in the lobby. The receptionist was staring at me now with wide eyes, clearly having overheard at least part of the conversation. The whispers had stopped. Everyone was looking at me differently now, like I'd just transformed into someone else right before their eyes. But I hadn't changed. I was the same person I'd been when I walked in. The only thing that changed was their knowledge of what was in my bank account. Less than 2 minutes later, the elevator doors opened again, and this time 3 people emerged. Richard was back, looking mortified, accompanied by an Asian man in his 50s wearing an impeccable suit, and a woman who I assumed was some kind of senior executive based on the way she carried herself. The older man approached me with his hand extended and a warm smile that seemed genuine. "Mr. Webb, I'm David Chen. I cannot apologize enough for this misunderstanding. Please, let's go upstairs to my office where we can speak privately." I shook his hand and followed them to the elevator. As we rode up to the 10th floor, the silence was deafening. Richard kept his eyes fixed on the floor numbers, his face still flushed with embarrassment. The woman, who introduced herself as Linda Hartwell, the bank's managing director, was also apologetic. "Mr. Webb, what happened downstairs was completely unacceptable," she said. "Sterling Reserve prides itself on treating every client with respect and dignity, regardless of circumstance. You have my personal assurance that this will be addressed. It's not just about me," I said. "It's about everyone who walks through those doors and gets judged before anyone even bothers to learn their name." She nodded, and I could see she understood. David's office was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Park Avenue, the autumn sunlight streaming in. The furniture was modern but elegant, and there was a subtle scent of sandalwood in the air. He gestured for me to sit in one of the leather chairs across from his desk. "Again, my sincerest apologies," David said as he sat down. "Can I offer you some coffee? Water? Anything?" Coffee would be great, actually. He pressed a button on his phone, and within a minute, an assistant appeared with a French press and porcelain cups. As she poured, David opened a folder on his desk. "I've reviewed the preliminary information Patricia sent over," he said. "First of all, congratulations on your acquisition. Building a company from the ground up and seeing it through to this kind of exit is remarkable, especially at your age. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?" 29. I said. "Incredible. And you built the entire platform yourself?" "Not entirely. I had a small team, incredibly talented people who believed in the vision. But yeah, I wrote most of the initial code, developed the algorithms, pitched it to our first clients. It's been my life for the past 6 years." David leaned back in his chair, genuinely interested. "What inspired you to focus on renewable energy management?" I found myself relaxing as I told him the story, how I'd grown up in a small town in Oregon, where my dad worked at a lumber mill, how I'd seen firsthand how entire communities could collapse when industries changed, how I'd studied computer science on a scholarship at University of Washington, working 3 jobs to pay for everything my scholarship didn't cover, how I'd become obsessed with the idea that technology could help make renewable energy not just viable, but economically superior to fossil fuels. The problem wasn't the technology itself, I explained. It was the management systems. Energy grids are incredibly complex, and integrating renewable sources efficiently requires real-time optimization that most existing systems couldn't handle. So I built something that could. And clearly it worked, David said with a smile. Beyond my wildest expectations. We started with 3 small utility companies in the Pacific Northwest. Within 2 years, we were managing energy distribution for half the West Coast. The company that acquired us operates in 14 countries. They saw what we'd built and knew it was the future. We talked for another hour about investment strategies, wealth preservation, estate planning, things I'd never had to think about before. David was patient and never made me feel stupid for asking basic questions. He treated me like an equal, someone whose success was legitimate and hard-earned. Before I left, Linda came back to the office. She looked serious. "Mr. Webb, I want you to know that Richard Ashford is no longer employed by Sterling Reserve. We've also spoken with our receptionist about appropriate conduct. What happened today violated every principle this institution stands for." I was surprised. "You fired him?" "We hold our employees to the highest standard. What he did wasn't just unprofessional. It was discriminatory. We can't tolerate that." Part of me felt bad, but a larger part remembered how he'd made me feel and how many other people he'd probably treated the same way. "I appreciate you taking it seriously." "We do, and I hope you'll give us the opportunity to show you what Sterling Reserve is really about." I did. Over the next few weeks, I worked with David to set up my accounts, investments, and financial planning. He became not just my banker, but a mentor of sorts, introducing me to other entrepreneurs and investors, helping me navigate this new world I'd suddenly found myself in. But the real lesson came a few weeks later. I was having lunch with David at a restaurant near the bank when he told me something that stuck with me. "You know what separates truly wealthy people from everyone else?" he asked. "It's not the money. It's the understanding that wealth is a responsibility, not just a privilege. The best clients I've ever worked with are the ones who remember where they came from, who use their resources to create opportunity for others, who never forget that circumstances can change in an instant." He told me about clients who'd lost everything in market crashes, about inheritances that had destroyed families, about people who had all the money in the world, but were miserable because they'd lost sight of what mattered. "The fact that you walked in here in a hoodie and jeans," he said, "that tells me you're not trying to be something you're not. You're focused on substance, not appearance. That's rare, especially in this city." I thought about that conversation a lot in the months that followed. I thought about it when I started a foundation to provide coding scholarships for kids from low-income families. I thought about it when I invested in other startups, run by founders who reminded me of myself, people with great ideas but no connections or pedigree. I thought about it every time someone treated me differently once they knew who I was or what I was worth. Here's what I learned from that experience at Sterling Reserve Bank. Respect should never be conditional on wealth or status or appearance. Every person you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying dreams you can't see, possessing potential you can't measure. The receptionist who judged me, Richard who dismissed me, they didn't know my story. They didn't know the nights I'd slept in my office, the ramen dinners, the rejection, the doubt, the relentless work. They just saw someone who didn't look like he belonged. But the truth is, we all belong. Every single one of us deserves to be treated with basic human dignity and respect. And if you're in a position of power, whether you're working at a bank or running a company or just interacting with people in your daily life, remember that how you treat others says everything about who you are and nothing about who they are. I still wear hoodies and jeans most days. I still drive my old Honda Civic, though I could afford pretty much any car I wanted. I still eat at the same cheap Thai place I loved when I was broke. Because none of that stuff defines me. My worth isn't determined by my clothes or my car or the balance in my bank account. It's determined by how I treat people, what I contribute to the world, and whether I stay true to the values that got me here. That Tuesday morning in Manhattan taught me something invaluable. It taught me that the way people treat you often reveals more about them than it does about you. It taught me that success is hollow if it changes who you are at your core. And it taught me that the most powerful thing you can do with wealth and success is use it to create opportunities for others, to lift people up instead of looking down on them. So the next time you walk into a room and feel like you don't belong, Remember this story. Remember that appearances are deceiving, that everyone's fighting battles you can't see, and that your worth has nothing to do with what others think of you. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay true to yourself, and never ever judge someone by their hoodie and jeans, because you never know whose story you're looking at. You never know what someone's been through or where they're going, and you definitely never know what's in their bank account until you actually check. If this story resonated with you, do me a favor, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back next week with another story that I promise will surprise you just as much. Until then, remember, treat everyone with respect, stay humble no matter how high you climb, and never let anyone make you feel like you don't belong. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.